All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Xochitl Martinac, and I am with Leeza's Care Connection. I am the project manager here. For those of you that are not familiar with Leeza's Care Connection, we are a place that offers resources, support, and education to caregivers that are caring for anyone with Alzheimer's or dementia. And we have partnered today with Alzheimer's Association and Foundation for Senior Services. And I wanted to present Savannah Levine, who is the Program and Education Manager at Alzheimer's Association, and she will present our presenter today.
Thanks, Sochi. Yeah, we really appreciate the collaboration between Leeza's Care Connection and the Foundation for Senior Services to be able to get this out to as many individuals as possible who need this information. And it is my pleasure to introduce Teresa Ofstad. She's a community educator and support group facilitator and new advocate for the Alzheimer's Association. And she's going to be doing the second presentation in this Empowered Caregiver series. Supporting independence. We will be looking at the chat as we go along, but the best practices we are going to save the Q&A for the end. But take it from here, Teresa.
Thank you so much, Savannah and Sochi and everybody for joining us for Supporting Independence. I believe you can all see my screen. If you have any difficulties hearing me or hearing any of the videos, please let me know. Again, my name is Teresa Ofstad. I am a volunteer community educator and support group facilitator for the California Southland chapter. When I was 8 years old, I watched my grandmother valiantly battle a disease she had no way of winning. I also watched as my 6 family members struggled to care for her. Then fast forward a few years ago, when my dad started showing early signs, I joined the Alzheimer's Association to learn all that I can to help my dad and to educate myself on how to prevent myself from getting the disease, and my son and future generations. And the more I learned, the more I knew I needed to share it with others and support them in their journey as well. So today's presentation is part of the Empowered Caregiver series. This is part 2. We have 3 more topics to come after today. So keep an eye out each month and join us for all of them or any of them. This program is for people who want to learn information and skills to care for somebody living with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Today we will watch some videos of real caregivers and do some knowledge checks along the way. Please let me know if you have any trouble hearing. As I mentioned, just put it in the chat, or we've got ladies who are going to be monitoring that for us. And then at the end, we'll share the questions and answers that you may have at the end. So today, the presentation will help you to, I already did this one. Yes, so today's presentation will be helping people to explain the changes in independence that happen in people living with Alzheimer's and other dementias over the course of the disease, and describe the 4 steps for helping with personal care activities. We'll be going through those 4 steps and using some real-life examples. We will be sharing a list of tips to help make activities meaningful, and we'll also be focusing on identifying ways to know what the right amount of support should be, and describe how dementia affects safety. And so most people living with dementia want to do as much as they can for themselves. They want that independence for as long as possible. It's a struggle for them. And as a family member or a friend, you are their caregiver. You most likely know the person the best, but even if you don't, you can always ask other family members or trusted friends that can also help you learn more about them and find out what their likes, their dislikes are, their history, their hobbies, things like that. And when you know what is most important to that person, you can find ways to help them and stay independent and safe for as long as possible. You want to try to include the person living with dementia in conversations about their support. When you're able to do this, you are treating the person with dignity and respect. And you will also feel good that you're making decisions everyone feels comfortable with. So we're going to first start off with a knowledge check. And so true or false, all people living with dementia need the same amount of support. You can put it there in the chat, and I am going to give you 1 second, and then I'm going to click on the right answer is false. Each person living with dementia has different strengths and abilities. As a caregiver, you can use what you know about the person to provide the right amount of support. Dementia is unique with different strengths and abilities. It's also true that dementia affects people in different ways. Everyone's level of independence will vary, and these abilities will change over time. Oftentimes, too, if you try something and it doesn't work, you can always come back to it at a different time or time of the day. Different things work at different times as well. Alzheimer's causes more damage to brain cells as the disease progresses. And this makes it hard for the person. It makes it hard for them to follow instructions, move from one activity to the next, or remember the steps to do in a task, even one they could do before, something that they do regularly, they may forget how to do. And so everybody can still hear me and see me okay?
Yep,
Okay.
we can hear you and see you.
Perfect. I just had a little glitch on my end there, so I wanted to check in. So how can you help maintain or maximize the person's independence? As a caregiver, you should encourage independence by focusing on what the person can do instead of what they can't, and doing tasks with the person instead of for the person, connecting with the person instead of correcting them. It's also important to pay attention to the person's abilities as they change. Adjust your approach as you need to. As the disease progresses, you will need to break tasks down into smaller steps. The person living with dementia might need more time to do each step, or may not be able to finish all the steps, and then you can help jump in at some point. So with the person-centered approach, we defined person-centered care during our last session. Now let's explore how to provide person-centered support for activities. In the early stage of the disease, people living with Alzheimer's are usually still independent with personal care activities like dressing, eating, using the toilet, and bathing. However, they will need more support with these activities over time. You will need to adjust your support as the person's needs and abilities change. Let's watch this short video of a caregiver talking about providing person-centered support.
So with mom, examples around mealtime and cooking, she was willing to allow for my sister and I to prepare meals. And what we would do is have her maybe break apart celery or chop up some bigger size vegetables if we were doing a soup or something, and still incorporate her in those activities. As again the condition continued to progress, we then would just manage the full preparation ourselves, but supported her process in terms of the eating.
Okay, so today we are going to discuss 4 ways you can help personal care activities. And these 4 steps you're going to hear throughout the rest of the presentation with some of our examples that we're going to give. So number 1, you want to plan your approach. Number 2, you want to simplify the process. Number 3, you want to create the right environment. And number 4, you want to identify any health issues. So first step is planning the approach. And before you start an activity, ask yourself, what's the best way to support the person living with dementia in this situation? Every situation is different. Here are a few things to keep in mind. Think about the person's likes, dislikes, and abilities. With each activity, treat the person with dignity and respect. Provide them with choices. For example, instead of asking them if they're hungry for lunch, ask, would you like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a turkey and cheese? They're more likely to go along with it and give you their selection. And plan enough time to finish the task so that the person does not feel rushed. Second, you want to simplify the process. Everyday tasks may feel confusing or unfamiliar to the person living with dementia. Here are a few ways that you can help reduce stress or frustration and help the person be as independent as possible during an activity. Break the activity or task into smaller steps. Focus on one step at a time. Take out any extra questions or parts of the process that may not be necessary. We don't want to over-confuse them. Give instructions and encouragement to help the person feel successful. For example, you can say things like, great choice, or thanks for your help. Just any kind of encouragement that you can give will help them feel better. And thirdly, we want to think about how you can create the right environment. One that will make the person living with dementia feel supported and safe. That is the key thing. Unfamiliar or stressful environments can make the person feel anxious or nervous. And to create a safe and supportive environment, you want to keep the area comfortable and free of distractions. Get rid of trip hazards so the person can safely walk around. Make sure the space they are in allows the person to have privacy. And for example, get a privacy screen or a room divider if need be, so that others cannot see the person while they are bathing, changing their clothes, or using the bathroom. You could also hold up a towel or blanket while the person is getting dressed. Number 4, we are going to want to identify any health issues. Think about how the health of the person may affect how you care for them. Dementia causes changes in the way the body works, especially if the person also has other health issues. When doing an activity, you can support the person's health and well-being by checking to see if they could feel, if they feel uncomfortable. They may have trouble sitting for a long time, or perhaps their skin is irritated. Sometimes they may have eczema or an infection of dry skin or something like that that's making them feel sensitive to the touch. So just be aware of that. Make sure to talk to the doctor if you notice any changes in the person's health. It's important that the doctor and nurses know the person is living with Alzheimer's or dementia and what medications they take as well. Taking these steps can also help prevent additional health problems. And a lot of times these changes may be due to medication changes and things like that as well. So let's apply the process. We have talked about some ways you can support a person living with dementia and with their personal care needs. Now let's apply this process with these 4 steps. So first we're going to start with dressing. For a person living in the middle or late stage of Alzheimer's, choosing and putting on clothes can be very frustrating. Encourage the person to do as much for themselves as possible, but be ready to assist when they need it. To help the person get dressed, you want to plan the approach. Make sure you have enough time to help the person without rushing them. Respect the individual's personal style, including their likes and dislikes. The item they choose may make them feel good or share a fond memory for them. Consider how much help they do need. Do they need help choosing the whole outfit or just one piece of clothing? Next, you want to simplify the process. Take off any dirty clothes as soon as possible and remove the clothes from the area. Instead of choosing clothes for them, give them 2 outfits to pick from. It is important to give the person choices without offering too many. Lay out or give them clothing in the order it needs to be put on so that they can go in the right steps. And sometimes you can use gentle physical prompts, like when you're dressing them. For example, you can put your hand in their hand to guide them through their arm of the sleeve. And then the third thing we want to do is focus on creating the right environment. So dress in a safe area. Some rooms, like bathrooms, have tile floors, which can be really slippery and cause falls. Keep that in mind. And then help the person feel comfortable. For example, cover them while dressing, or again, holding up that towel if need be. You want to respect their dignity and make them feel safe. Find a space for dressing that is private and comfortable. Let's watch this short video of a caregiver, and she's talking about how she provides support with getting dressed.
My approach to getting my mother dressed as her needs changed and through the process was to keep her involved in what it is that she would put on. My mother was always somewhat of a vain person, and she liked really looking nice. So I would try to buy her outfits that she really liked, that really appealed to her. I would try to buy colors that I knew that she liked. When it was time to get dressed, I would present several outfits to her and let her select what it is that she wanted to wear that day. And just to keep her motivated and as a part of the process, to keep her interacting with me. She really liked looking nice. I liked doing things like keeping her hair done and whatever. And she seemed to appreciate that part of my effort to involve her in the process.
Okay, so let's put these strategies into practice. Here's an example. Lucy's partner, Helen, is living with dementia. Helen usually sleeps late and for the last several months has been able to dress herself without any help. One day, Lucy notices Helen is not wearing underwear or a bra under her clothes. The next morning, Lucy decides to just dress Helen herself so that they can get out the door quickly. So using this scenario, how could Lucy have changed her approach to help Helen remain independent with dressing by providing just the right amount of support? And when we're thinking about planning our approach, go ahead and put in the chat 1 or a 2, which one you think is correct. But in the first scenario, each night Lucy picks out an outfit with Helen and lays out the clothes for the next day to allow for more time in the morning. Or 2, instead of letting Helen sleep in, Lucy wakes her up an hour early so she doesn't have to rush getting Helen dressed in the morning. Well, both of them are options, but I believe number 1 would be the better choice. Lucy knew that Helen likes to sleep late, and to help Helen remain independent, she did not change Helen's routine, but rather changed her approach by helping Helen select her outfit the night before so she could still sleep in late. And then moving on to simplifying this process, there's 2 choices again. Lucy dresses Helen each morning rather than allowing her to dress herself. Or number 2, Lucy hands Helen 1 piece of clothing at a time so Helen can dress herself. I think 2 would be the better approach here. Lucy simplifying the process by offering Helen 2 outfits is the better choice. And then the third one here is to create the right environment. So number 1, Lucy makes sure to close the bedroom curtains when Helen is getting dressed so she has the privacy. Or number 2, Lucy turns on the TV and watches the news when when she dresses Helen. I think we know number 1 is the better choice. And then let's move on to the next thing, and we'll jump over here to eating. We're going to mix it up a little bit here. So thinking about planning the approach, meals may become increasingly challenging for people living in the middle or late stages of Alzheimer's. The person may feel overwhelmed if there are too many food choices. They might forget to eat or think that they have already eaten. Let's look at how you can support the person with eating. So first you want to, again, plan the approach. Think about what foods the person likes and how they like the food cooked. You want to be flexible with the meal times. If the person seems upset or confused or refuses to eat, you want to wait a little bit and let them eat when they're ready. Or maybe even get creative in a way that entices them to eat. But you want to look for ways to include the person so that they can help make the meal. Maybe they can set the table or put food on their plate. These actions can also help their appetite. Next, simplifying the process. Offer only a couple of food choices and give the person time to choose what they want. If the person is having trouble eating or drinking, if they are eating slowly, encourage them with simple, easy to understand instructions. For example, you can say things like, pick up your fork, put some food on it, raise it to your mouth. Those are kind of prompting signals there. And you never want to force a person to eat. Sit next to the person and make eye contact. Use this time to have a conversation with them and connect. It also distracts them, and you want to also make sure that the food is easy to pick up. Or you can also offer special types of forks, spoons, and knives that support independent eating. There are things that are out there for them. So number 3, we want to create the right environment, make it quiet, relaxing, and a comfortable atmosphere. You want to limit things that could be distracting, like the TV. And if you decide to play music, you can also make sure that it's a soft and relaxing volume, and keeping that volume low. Make sure that there is good lighting in the dining area so that the food is easy for them to see. That's important as well. And when it comes to eating, you can also identify any health issues. You want to watch for any changes in the person's ability to chew or swallow. If they have dentures or false teeth, you want to make sure that they are fitting correctly as well. Watch for swollen gums, sores, or loose teeth that may distract them and make them not want to eat. Be sure to talk to their doctor if he or she has any problems or seems to be eating or any changes in them eating and drinking. And then of course, if they are having their weight is drastically changing, that could also be a sign that you need to let the doctor know of as well. And the next thing here, we're going to watch another video. This one is going to be on how they provide support with eating.
We realized that she was no longer maybe able to chew things like meats, chicken, and so we started, not by, I guess, a conscious decision, but just because of Mom showing us what she could and could not do with regards to eating, doing more of a vegetarian diet for her, and definitely things where we would use softer foods as a disease progressed. So we were able to incorporate different flavors and meals that were still very much a part of the cuisine that she was used to, and the sazon flavors that were familiar to her, with things like eggplant, which was something that maybe she never necessarily had as a child or as an adult, but we were able to season it to her liking, and that's something that we kept kind of on a regular part of our meal planning, to make sure that she still had the nutrients that she needed, but also keeping the flavors that she knew and liked.
Okay, so let's look at putting this into practice. Lee is living with Parkinson's disease, dementia. He lives with his he lives with his daughter, Naomi, and her 2 kids, and is usually independent in preparing and eating his favorite breakfast, which is toast with butter. The house is usually very noisy in the morning as the kids prepare to go to school. Naomi notices that Lee is experiencing more tremors with his hands, is having more difficulty using the knife to butter his toast, and keeps dropping the toast when trying to feed himself. He starts staying in his bedroom instead of having breakfast with the family. One morning, Naomi sits Lee at the table with the kids and starts feeding him his breakfast. So keeping this in mind, we want to first plan the approach. How could Naomi change her approach to help Lee remain independent with eating breakfast and providing just the right amount of support? For planning your approach, let's look at the 2 options. And again, you can put that in the chat. Number 1, should she ask Lee if she can help by buttering the toast for him, or keep reminding Lee that it's breakfast and it's morning time, and just keep reminding him? Which 2 do you think? Let's try number 1. This is, in this way, she is treating Lee with dignity and respect by planning her approach and ask if he needs help, rather than doing the task for him. So let's move on to simplifying the process. Naomi puts jelly on the toast, hoping that this will make Lee want to eat, or Naomi cuts Lee's toast into small pieces so it's easier for him to pick up the food and feed him. Let's try number 2. Okay. In this situation, rather than doing the task for him, Naomi simplified the process by cutting the toast into smaller pieces so he could still remain independent in feeding himself. Plus, he may not want jelly on his toast. And so next we want to create the right environment. Should Naomi offer Lee breakfast after the kids go to school when there is less noise in the house? Or should she have Lee eat breakfast in his room while the kids are in the kitchen? When it comes to the environment, I think number 1 is the best choice. You just want to make it as calming of an environment as possible. So when it comes to identifying health issues, number 1, should Naomi call Lee's doctor to let him know about the increase in hand tremors and change in Lee's eating habits? Or Lee looks fine, so Naomi doesn't look for any health issues at all. Any kind of physical changes, you always want to let the doctors know about. And so let's move on here. We have, we'll jump right over to the toilet, using the toilet. That's a big one, and it can be a very difficult conversation. So let's walk through this process here. First, you want to plan the approach. Every few hours, remind the person to try to use the bathroom. Think about when accidents could happen and how you can avoid them. Watch for body language that tells you the person may need to use the bathroom. Are they fidgeting? Are they moving around? Then encourage them to go. Think about using protective underwear or pads just in case of accidents. In simplifying the approach, we can be sure that the person's clothing is easy to take off. Make sure the toilet seat is easy to see and in the right position. If the person has trouble with the toilet, think about using a portable bedside toilet, or a raised toilet seat helps as well. When it comes to creating the right environment, we want to make sure the bathroom is easy for the person to find and use. Also consider using helpful devices like grab bars or a transfer chair. And you want to ensure privacy by shutting any doors if possible and curtains or windows. This helps the person feel safe. And when it comes to health issues, you want to determine If the person has any bowel or bladder issues, such as constipation or incontinence, this means that they have trouble controlling their bladder or bowels. And if so, be sure to talk with the doctor if the person is having any of these issues. And again, it could also be due to medication changes or side effects. So let's listen to our caregiver again and how she helped her mother with toileting.
With toileting, as my mother's needs changed, she liked doing it less and less, but I had to do things to sort of entice her to do it. I would say, well, Mother, as soon as you use the toilet, then we'll have our lunch, or as soon as you use the toilet, we'll go ahead and get dressed. I had to sort of bring in other factors to sort of entice her to do her toilet, and it wasn't something she particularly enjoyed, particularly as she lost her ability to walk. But this is the way that I would sort of entice her into the process and to help her understand that there was something on the other side of toileting.
Great tips. So let's put this one into practice. Bob is living with dementia. Until recently, he has been able to go to the bathroom by himself without any issues. He starts having difficulty finding the bathroom and unbuttoning his pants in time. One day, while doing laundry, his wife Kathy notices Bob's pants are wet with urine. She immediately goes to the store to buy incontinence briefs. She removes Bob's underwear from the dresser and tells him that he has to wear briefs from now on. So let's think about this as we go through the 4 steps again. How could Kathy change her approach to Bob to help Bob remain independent with using the toileting by providing just the right amount of support? When planning your approach, let's look at the 2 options. So we have Kathy reminds Bob to go to the bathroom every 2 hours to help reduce accidents, or Kathy buys more pants because Bob is having so many accidents. I think the reminders are probably the best choice here, and hopefully you all agree on that. When it comes to simplifying the process, we can look at number 1, Kathy goes to the bathroom with Bob so she can pull his pants up and down for him, or Kathy buys pants without zippers or buttons so Bob can easily pull his pants up and down by himself. Let's try number 2. So Bob was able to reduce accidents and remain independent with going to the bathroom because Kathy simplified the process for him by buying clothes that Bob could easily pull up and down. So next one, when it comes to creating the right environment, either Kathy puts a sign up puts a sign on every bathroom door so that Bob can easily find it, or Kathy keeps the bathroom door closed at all times. I think it would be much easier for him if he had the signs on the bathroom rather than having the door closed. Kathy created the right environment by making sure Bob was able to easily find the bathroom because the door was labeled. And then finally, either number 1, when it comes to identifying health issues, number 1, is she worried that he might have a urinary tract infection? Kathy calls Bob's doctor to tell him about his new bladder issue, or Kathy continues to buy incontinence briefs for Bob to wear. Any change should also always be in having the doctor be informed. And so let's move on to bathing. I think we still need to do. So when it comes to planning your approach, bathing can be a challenge. People living with dementia may be uncomfortable receiving help with such an intimate activity that involves their naked body. There are always ways to bathe easier and more comfortable. But because each situation is unique, finding what works is often the result of trial and error, so you'll need to keep trying. Here are a few things to keep in mind. Start by considering the person's preferences, a bath or a shower, and their usual routine. If you do not know the person's preferences, ask them directly when possible. If the person is not able to tell you their preferences, ask someone who knows them well. And make sure you have enough time to help the person bathe without needing to rush them through the process. Also, finding what time they normally bathe is helpful as well. They oftentimes don't want to get out of their routine. When it comes to simplifying the process, we can look for ways that will help there as well by using words and actions to show the person how to wash their body. Use positive reinforcement to encourage independence, but also provide help when it's needed. For example, the person may be able to wash themselves if you put soap on the washcloth and hand it to them. Be sure to calmly focus on cleaning one body part at a time and do not rush them through the movements. When creating the right environment, we want to focus on providing a quiet, relaxing, and warm space, free from loud noise and distractions. Respect the person's privacy, keeping shower curtains or doors closed, and provide towels and bathrobes to help them cover up. You want to also stand by and be ready and to assist them whenever needed. But provide footwear or assistive devices that help them safely move in and out of the shower or bath. And make sure that the room temperature is not too cold. When identifying health issues, you want to consider if the person's physical or medical issues, some may affect the bathing process. Find out if the person is experiencing any pain or trouble moving around. And here's another caregiver video to talk a little bit about this topic here.
I always knew that Kathleen doesn't like a cold bathroom. So when she began to lose her ability to sequence a complete task like taking a shower, I stepped in and got the bathroom warm for her, started the shower at the risk of wasting a little bit of hot water, such that I could tell her, "Sweetheart, I got the bathroom nice and warm, all steamy and warm for you. Come on in." And of course that led to lots of laughs when she walked in and saw my glasses all steamed up. She thought that was just the funniest thing, but she was grateful that I had cared enough to get the bathroom warm for her. And then initially, of course, she didn't want any help, in the shower. That's a very personal thing, and I respected that, but nevertheless, I stayed in the bathroom, just making sure that she was okay. And then gradually, I said, could I help you with the shampoo there? And I assured her that I knew all about taking care of hair, but she allowed me to help with the shampoo to make sure that we got it all out of her hair. And then, of course, the luxury of nice warm towels waiting for her as she stepped out of the shower. She really appreciated that. And my goodness, what a great, somewhat intimate connection that was, to be able to help my wife in the shower. It was, I'm sorry that I had to do it, but I'm glad that I had the opportunity to do it.
Mr. Comedian there about the hair. But let's put this into practice as well. So Barbara is living with frontotemporal dementia, and her husband Joe recently made the difficult decision to move her into a nursing home. She is in a wheelchair, has trouble communicating, and has always been very modest. When she lived at home, Joe would help her shower in the morning when she was more alert and relaxed. She always preferred to wash her face and arms with a washcloth while visiting And then while visiting Barbara, Joe learns that she got upset with the staff and resisted bathing the night before and would not let them wash her. So let's see, in this situation, if we're thinking about planning the approach here, It is important for the staff to provide just the right amount of support so that Barbara can remain independent with bathing. What could Joe do to help with planning the approach? Number one, Joe suggests that the staff offer Barbara a shower in the morning, as this was her routine at home and when she was most relaxed and alert. Or number two, Joe agrees that the staff should keep trying to give Barbara a bath, as she will eventually have to agree. I think that number one is the best approach. And when it comes to simplifying the process, Number one, Joe recommends that the staff quickly wash Barbara to shorten the amount of time she is upset. Or number two, Joe shows that the staff how he would put the soap on the washcloth, and then Barbara verbally cues on how to wash her face and arms. Number two is the most relaxing here and comfortable and helping her to feel the safest. By sharing these tips with the staff about what Barbara can do rather than what she can't do, staff can simplify the process of bathing by using the same approach and help her remain as independent as possible. And when it comes to creating the right environment, number one, suggest that the staff quickly wheel Barbara from her room to the shower after they get her ready for a shower. To the shower room after they get ready for a shower. Or number two, Joe asks the staff if they can get Barbara ready for her shower in the shower room, where it is quiet and warm, instead of her bedroom, which is down the hall. So number two would be the better choice. Because Joe knows Barbara is modest, his suggestion for staff to help her prepare for a shower in a warm and quiet shower room is a great way to create the right environment by helping Barbara feel more comfortable. And the last one here, should Joe ask the nurse if Barbara has had any changes in medication or has any new health concerns, or assume the staff will let him know if there are any changes with Barbara's health? You always want to advocate for your loved one and ask as many questions as you can. So supporting a person living with dementia requires involvement from the entire care team. Asking questions about changes in medication or any new health concerns is a great way to identify health issues and engage staff in problem solving. Again, it is a very personalized situation and everyone is different. Alrighty, so now taking part in meaningful activities. When looking for ways to help the person living with dementia maintain their independence, it is important to consider how to help them stay engaged in their daily life. This includes finding activities that they enjoy and find meaningful and rewarding. For example, if the person has always enjoyed food and making meals, setting the table can help them feel accomplished because they were able to contribute to mealtime. So let's take a look at some tips to help make activities successful. Keep the person's skills and abilities in mind. Stick with activities the person is good at and has always liked to do. For example, a person living with dementia may be able to play simple songs learned on the piano from years ago. And keep in mind that you may need to make adjustments to match the person's current abilities. For example, they're putting toothpaste on the toothbrush for them, but having them brush their own teeth will still help them feel independent. Alrighty, so paying attention to likes and dislikes. Take note when the person seems happy, anxious, distracted, or irritated. And for example, some people do enjoy watching sports, while others may be afraid of the pace or the noise may be overwhelming for them. So keep that in mind and help get the activity started. You can offer assistance to get them started, such as folding the first towel or drying the first dish, and then talk them through the steps so they can do it as well. And most people living with dementia can still do things with just the right amount of support and encouragement. So when it comes to doing the activity and not the result, we want to focus on that. It's not as important if something is done right. Does it matter if the towels are folded improperly? Not necessarily. You may have to refold them again later, but just their action of going through it and folding them makes them feel better. So what matters is that the person feels useful and that you were able to spend time together. You want to break activities into easy to follow steps. Keep it simple and be sure to focus on one task at a time. Too many distractions at once can be overwhelming to them. And if you notice the person is having trouble with the more difficult parts of the task, offer to help. And so here we want to talk to the person and describe what you are doing while you're cleaning the house or folding the laundry or cooking dinner. Even if they can't respond, they will benefit from your communication. And if it doesn't work for the first time, you can always try it again later. If something's not working, it could also be the time of the day. Maybe they're getting a little more agitated. So try it at a different time of the day as well. It's important to know that what works one day may not work the next day. And if this is the case, you may need to make changes to the activity or try it again at another time. It is important to figure out how to provide the right amount of support for each person. So you want to find that balance. Too much or too little support can have unintended consequences. For example, providing too little support can make the person feel frustrated or make them want to give up on the task altogether. Too much support can make the person feel like their thoughts, emotions, and abilities are not important and may make them not want to participate. Using the person-centered care approach can also help provide just the right support. And in some cases, this can even mean that the person is able to do more for themselves for a longer period of time. So here's some tips to following and just providing that just enough support. Consider what you know about the person. It is essential to learn as much as you can about the person you're caring for. Find their likes and dislikes, their strengths and their abilities. Ask about their preferences. Talk about which things they would like to help with and which things they would like to do on their own. Have a conversation about different situations and how they'd like you to help them. Change how you do activities to allow for success. The person might need help starting the task, but then they can do it on their own. You want to start out small, begin with a small amount of support and see how things go. Don't be afraid to try out something new, as long as it's supportive. If it doesn't work, try something else. And if it doesn't work the first time, you can try it again another time. Organize the environment, such as schedules, to match the person's best times of the day with the most important activities. Pay attention to how things are going and make changes when needed. Watch for signs that you are providing too little or too much support. You can read, get feedback from them, and you can see if it agitates them or not. It's important to continue to evaluate and adjust your approach as the disease progresses and the person's interests and abilities change. I always like to say, in a situation where there's frustration, a lot of times we're having to repeat things or it gets to be a frustrating situation, Just take a breath and remember that we can't change the way they are reacting to the situation. We can only control the way we're reacting to the situation. So hopefully these steps will help you with some ideas of how to balance that. And we do have a little take-home activity here. I'm not sure if Sochi can forward that off or possibly get that in the chat. But there is some examples here of how to walk through the things that we talked about today. So this is a little take-home activity that we have. And so balancing safety and independence. We're going to do a quick knowledge check again. So you are true or false, you only need to worry about safety in the late stages of the disease. I am going to answer false. It is never too early to create a plan for the person's safety. This can reduce risk and prevent injuries. It can also make everyone feel more relaxed. And remember, in the early stages, they have a lot more ability to do things that they used to do, and they'll try to do a lot more. So you want to make sure that the environment and their surroundings are safe. So that many people living with dementia feels that maintaining their independence throughout the course of the disease is extremely important. As the disease progresses, it can also be difficult for caregivers to balance safety with independence. However, it is very important to put safety measures in place before an accident occurs. Falls are very dangerous. That's one of the things we really want to try to avoid as much as possible. So how dementia affects safety. Alzheimer's disease causes a number of changes in the brain and body that may affect safety. Depending on the disease progression, these can include judgment, forgetting how to safely use appliances like the stove, sense of time and place, getting lost in familiar places or wandering. Oftentimes with this disease, they may be thinking of a time in the past or a home they lived in the past, and they're trying to get there. It can affect their behavior as well, becoming easily anxious or confused or afraid. They may not trust other people. Their brain is working in a way that they're thinking things that may not be true. And so even though they know you, even though you may be a family member, they may not be remembering that, and they may not be trusting you. The physical ability, having trouble with balance, this can increase their risk for falls as well. And their senses, experiencing changes in vision or hearing and sensitivity to temperatures. They might have trouble with depth perception and find it difficult to judge where objects are around them. So tips to help the person stay independent and safe. Their home safety, you want to keep an eye on garages, workrooms, basements, and outside areas. Make sure that tools, chemicals, cleaning supplies, and other dangerous items are safely secured. You want to just keep the area safe. And look at the Alzheimer's Association Home Safety Checklist. We have a great website, which I'm going to share a little bit more in a minute, but alz.org/checklist for more tips. When it comes to driving safely, someday the person living with dementia will no longer be able to drive. You want to discuss how retirement from driving will be handled before it becomes an issue. It's a really hot button I've seen a lot of people struggle with, and a lot of times you can get the doctors involved. A lot of times you can get the DMV involved and have them retested. And so that's a really big hot button that they don't want to let go of. But you can explore other transportation options and visit alz.org/driving to learn about more tips there as well. Obviously, firearm and gun safety is very important. It is very dangerous for everyone when someone in the home is living with dementia. Consider removing guns and other weapons from the home or storing them in a locked cabinet. Invite trusted relatives, hunting buddies, or other authority figures to take part in a discussion about firearms. And again, there's a section on our website, alz.org/safety, to learn more about tips on that. And then getting around safely. You want to look for places where people might trip or fall in the home or in the yard. Falls are very, very dangerous. Make sure the person takes a fully charged phone or GPS with them when they go for a walk. It's great if you can go with them, and tell neighbors that the person is living with dementia so that they can help if the person seems lost or confused. You can enroll the person in a medical identification program as well. And managing your expectations. So you want to ask yourself what really matters, what's most important, and have words that you can repeat to yourself to help you focus on what's important. And oftentimes you just want to say to yourself over and over again, it's okay, just let it go. You want to take that deep breath, go with the flow. If it's not done right, so what? As long as it gets done and you're able to have a good time together. So there's a lot of times when you just need to take that breath and say, I can only control how I feel in this situation, and I can't control the way they're reacting to it. So that's the end of our presentation, everybody. There are so many resources that we have at the Alzheimer's Association. Two most important things I want you to all take away from today for these resources. Our 24/7 helpline is great. They're available every day of the year as well as in all languages. So they're a really great support. We also have our website, and as I mentioned, alz.org is the main place you want to go, but there's a section for pretty much everything you would want to see. You have a care, /care, safety, driving. Those are the things we talked about today. And there's additional education programs. As I said, this is a series, so there's more support there. And always look for your chapter resources, support groups. And are there any questions at this point? I'm going to leave it on this page.
There was a question in the Q&A. It says, I can't get my wife to shower or brush her teeth. I have tried everything I can think of. Any more ideas?
Well, like I said, with brushing the teeth, it could be something as simple as just putting a toothpaste on the toothbrush and handing it to her. Oftentimes when we ask the question, do you want to do this or let's do this, there's pushback, there's fight. But if you go with the process, they're a lot of times more willing to go along with you. And instead of asking the question or trying to ask her to brush her own teeth, you can just put the toothpaste on the toothbrush and say, here, time to brush your teeth. If it's right in front of them, they're more likely to just take it and start with that process. But it is a very difficult one. Savannah, do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It comes up a lot in terms of hygiene and bathing and all those types of things. With toothbrushing, I have been told that a lot of caregivers will model brushing with their loved one, right? Because there may be an issue where they may forget how to do it. And so there may be pushback there, and you don't even know that there's potentially a lack of understanding of what it is anymore. So you could do it together, you could show her, so I think that there are some options there as hard as it is. It depends on, of course, where she is in the disease stage, but I would try the modeling piece as well. If you've tried a lot of other things and she's not doing it on her own, it could be the case that that she needs that extra support.
Yeah, and then I think one of the caregivers in the video mentioned it, but just kind of giving her the picture of what's going to come after that task. So we have to hurry and brush our teeth so we can get to the movie, or we can get to the next thing. It's place in the process will help them also think, okay, I got to hurry and do this so we can do this. So sometimes that helps as well.
Or something that they're looking forward to, like,
Yes.
like Teresa. Exactly, that's the idea. I feel like there was a part 2 of the question. Was it just teeth brushing, or was there other?
Showering as well.
Shower.
So that's where I was saying if we can hurry and take a shower so we can get to the movie, or we can get to the place that they want to go, or get to the task that needs to be done. If you hurry, why don't you go take a shower while I go prepare lunch, or something where there's something else for them to look forward to doing once the shower's complete. Instead of focusing on the task itself, let's move on to try suggesting, moving on to the next thing that's going to happen after the task is done.
And doing that, but also making sure, like the gentleman said in the video, right, that the shower environment is the most comfortable and the best it can be. So whether it's making them comfortable, making sure they realize that it's warm and that the temperature is good and that they feel like they're safe, and that maybe they need a shower chair or whatever that looks like. Or is it the person who is showering them? Do they not want to undress in front of you? Is it someone else? So there's a lot of sort of being curious about what may be triggering her not to want to shower is possibility. I love to share those UCLA videos that talk about showering and bathing. I don't know, Teresa, if we've gone over this, but I'll stick it in the chat for everyone. I think they're an amazing, amazing resource for these sort of practical tip pieces that can be so challenging. So I'll go ahead and do that.
Are there any other questions?
That was the only one.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Like we said, there are additional series of this coming up. There's 3 more, I believe, right? So keep an eye out for Leeza's Care Connection newsletters, and there's another group that's supporting this as well, right, Savannah? So and Alzheimer's, we're all sharing the information for the next few series as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're very, very grateful to Leeza's Care Connection, the Foundation for Senior Services. This is the 2nd out of 5. It is being held, I believe, the 4th Tuesday of every month, 12 to 1. So you can expect the same cadence, but definitely be looking out for that information. Sochi has confirmed with me that she's going to send out the follow-up information to you. So some of those handouts that Teresa mentioned that can supplement this presentation, and the participants guide. So definitely look into that, and feel free to use any of our resources shared here. So we're very grateful to our partners, and I know we're a bit over, but I'm happy to stay on for additional questions if anyone has.
So it doesn't look like there was any more questions, but yes, I will go ahead and email everybody that information, and I will go ahead and also email this link that Savannah just shared. That way everybody has the information. All right, guys, so yes, Savannah mentioned, I can also send out the schedule for the following class, and yes, it does fall on the 4th Tuesday of every month at the same time, 12 to 1 o'clock. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Teresa. And thank you, Foundation of Senior Services, for this opportunity.